O Mother Nui, stretch high above this valley. Your starry body is our glory. Then see the hawk of yonder Rahur quit, his fiery splendor, oh so mighty. He brings a light for all our weary souls. He makes the broken spirit whole.
Imagine working a grueling 9 to 5 at the European Patent Office in the 1970s. You stamp papers all day long. But when you go home, you don't just, watch television. You write the most rigorous practical manual on high ritual magic ever published. Welcome to today's deep dive.
Yeah, it's quite the origin story.
Right. We're pulling from a stack of historical retrospectives, academic articles, and our own research notes to look at David Conway and his 1972 book, Magick, an occult primer.
It's a completely fascinating text because Conway, who was just a Welsh civil servant, he essentially took the occult out of the hands of those stuffy Victorian secret societies.
He really did.
He turned magic into this very accessible, practical science. And the ripple effects of that shift were just wild, sparking both avant-garde art movements and, well, massive theological panics.
To see how he pulled that off, we really have to look at his actual definition of magic. Okay, let's unpack this. Conway didn't view magic as supernatural at all. It wasn't about casting fireballs.
Or not at all.
Right.
So he actually grew up learning Celtic folk magic from a Welsh sheep farmer.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, but he viewed all of that through the lens of Carl Jung's depth psychology. Jung's idea was that we all share this collective, unconscious, a deep hidden layer of the mind filled with universal symbols and archetypes.
Right, the archetypes.
Exactly. And Conway argued that magic is really just a process of tapping into that natural hidden layer of human psychology.
So instead of pleading with spirits in the sky, you're essentially hacking your brain's biological filters to access a deeper mental operating system.
Precisely. He believed our everyday consciousness is just a survival mechanism that filters out a wider reality. Magic, to Conway, was simply the psychological toolkit to bypass that filter.
Okay, but if the magic is all internal, if it's just a mental toolkit, what does the training actually look like? Because the sources show Conway was incredibly strict about this.
Oh, he was. It all came down to mastering visualization, not just daydreaming, but intense, unbroken mental focus. He had this exercise called the fruit.
The fruit.
Yeah. You sit down and hallucinate your favorite fruit. But you have to hold it in your mind's eye for 5 solid minutes.
Wait, 5 minutes straight?
5 solid minutes, seeing it in 3D, smelling it, feeling the texture, without the image wavering even once.
Honestly, try doing that while you're listening to this. Just holding a static image for 10 seconds is exhausting. Why put people through that?
To forge an ironclad will, the mind has to be trained to project focus. Conway loved to share this one anecdote about Aleister Crowley to prove this point. Crowley was walking behind a man, matching his stride perfectly.
Okay.
And using pure, concentrated mental projection, Crowley forced his own knees to buckle, and the man walking ahead of him physically collapsed onto the pavement.
Wait, hold on. I'm genuinely confused here. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, what is it?
If Crowley can do that just by thinking hard, why does Conway's book spend so much time on theatrical props? The specific colored candles, the cedar incense, the complex altars. If it's all in the mind, why bother with all the drama?
That's a great question, and his answer gets to the core of human perception. Conway called these props correspondences. Burning cedar incense on a Thursday with blue candles to channel Jupiter. That isn't magic in a vacuum.
Right. It's not the incense doing the work.
Exactly. Those are highly calculated sensory anchors. They're specifically designed to completely overwhelm your everyday mundane senses, which forces your brain into the specific altered state needed to execute that intense visualization.
So he built this incredibly articulate psychological framework, but obviously if you publish a DIY manual for altering reality, it's going to cause some friction out in the real world.
Friction is an understatement. It created a totally dual legacy. In the counterculture, it inspired chaos magic, which is essentially the belief that belief itself is just a tool, and you can use any symbol to create psychological change.
Like William S. Burroughs, right?
Yes, the beat author. He loved this, and he used Conway's techniques to subvert societal norms.
But there was a completely opposite reaction going on at the exact same time.
The 1980s evangelical backlash.
Yeah.
And here's the fascinating mechanism behind that. Mainstream secular therapists were starting to use guided imagery and inner healing techniques to help patients process trauma. It was standard psychology.
But Christian watchdogs saw these therapies and realized they looked identical to Conway's incredibly clear instructions on visualization.
Exactly. Because he framed magic as psychology, the critics flipped it and said psychology was actually magic. They used his book as a smoking gun to claim that secular therapists were inadvertently training unsuspecting patients in demonic high magic.
The clarity of Conway's writing literally became the ultimate weapon against the very psychological field he was drawing from.
It really did.
Today, 50 years later, our research notes show Conway's work bridges a huge gap between mystical seekers and what are called saswitches, those skeptical, agnostic, science-seeking practitioners who use his texts strictly as applied psychology.
Which makes total sense, given how much he relied on natural cognitive processes rather than supernatural intervention.
So what does this all mean for you? If modern cognitive scientists look at Conway's rituals and say, well, that's just a highly effective application of the placebo effect and neurolinguistic programming, which is simply using language and sensory anchors to change behavior, it begs a pretty big question. Is there actually any functional difference between casting a magical spell and practicing intense cognitive behavioral therapy? Something to think about the next time you try to change your own mind?